Morning, everybody.
Good
Morning,
morning.
Mayor. Morning.
Oh, good. If you can hear me. Give it another minute for people to get online here.
To spare you all from watching me eat breakfast, I'm turning my camera off.
It's fine.
I hope
Thanks.
everybody's ready for a beautiful weekend.
Definitely. We're almost at a good proportion of who I expect today. Yep. Maybe we'll get going. I think we're probably good. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Good to see those of you I can see. Good to see the rest of you online. We have a large group. I know the people who join us as guests, we don't always go through and introduce everyone. I think we did that at our last meeting. But it takes a long time to introduce this many people. So um, if you are, one of our guests today, I think what we'll do is, if someone raises their hand or has a question, if they want to get involved in the discussion, we'll have you introduce yourself at that point so people know who you are, but not take like 10 minutes to go all around the room this morning. Suffice to say, we've got folks that are representing both Inglewood and Sheridan and Littleton governments. And then we've also got folks who are from other, staff members within those governments. And we've got people from Arapahoe County and within Arapahoe County's departments. And then we have some folks who provide services in the community who are part of our group as well. So hopefully I've covered all of you in some way in all those descriptions. And then as we go, like I said, please let people know who you are. I'm Tara Biter-Fleur. I'm the chairperson of the Tri-Cities Homeless Policy Group and the mayor of Sheridan. And so I welcome you all this morning. First item we have on our agenda is introduction and some presentation from Jason Johnson, who's the sort of newish executive director of Metro Denver Homeless Initiative. Good morning.
Good morning. Still feeling very new, so I will add that caveat to my introduction. What is this? This is I've passed the 2 month mark, so that feels good. So
Still
I'm
pretty new.
settling in. Yeah. But it's good to be with you. I had an opportunity to introduce myself very quickly at a meeting that I believe occurred in my first or second week. So I was really drinking from the fire hose when I came to join you all then, and really appreciate having some time on your agenda this morning. Um, my name is Jason Johnson, and I serve as director of the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative, or MDHI. And um, I know that many of you, and have spoken with some of you, are aware of MDHI's role, but just at a high level, we are a convener, facilitator, and direct the continuum of care for the 7-county multi-sub-region of the Metro Denver area. The COC is a federally mandated, federally designated area done through law, approved by Congress, and administered by HUD to ensure that various different regions across the country are being unified in their responses to addressing homelessness. We do that work by operating and administrating a number of technical aspects. So the homeless management information system, coordinated entry. We do continuum wide planning. We run a process which distributes about close to $35 million in HUD funds into the community. And we also convene a number of spaces where folks can share information, talk about what's working, work through what's not, and serve an important role to make sure that we're all kind of rowing in the same direction. And I'm a Colorado native, but have not lived here in Colorado for 30 years. Bulk of my career was spent in the Seattle-King County region, where I participated in a number of roles in the Seattle-King County COC, or Continuum of Care. So I returned to Colorado and am really excited to be home. I grew up in Boulder. I now live in Arvada, and am returning. Life happens in funny and unexpected ways sometimes. My mother lost her husband last summer, and in the process of helping her sort of sort out her estate and consider downsizing and a number of other sort of questions that came up during that period, realized she needed a different level of support than I was able to provide over 1,000 miles, living over 1,000 miles away. So made the return to Colorado, and am just absolutely thrilled to be able to join this smart, dedicated team of individuals at the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative, and really excited to begin my partnership with you, and really excited to lean into the work with you. I don't have a formal presentation this morning, but there are a few comments I want to make. I also want to answer any of the questions that you have at this point. But I would love to, I'd like to make a request that I come back to this group in May. We are about to, on April 24th, we will be releasing the first Colorado State of Homelessness report. This is a body of work that the state asked and funded MDHI to facilitate, and we will. We're busy finalizing a number of really important dashboards which show data from all 4 COCs across the state. And I think, as I'm clicking through the draft dashboards at this point, we see a really compelling story about things that are working, about our system as a whole, about how homelessness looks the same and different in rural communities, in urban communities, and suburban communities. And so I think it's really powerful information for all of us to use as sort of a baseline as we think about what kind of activities might work for us locally. I'll save the sort of formal presentation for a later date once that dashboard is live. And I'd love the opportunity to come to this group and walk you through it. But today I wanted to share that, again, 60 plus days in, I have really committed the first 90 days of my tenure at MDHI to meeting people across the region, folks who are doing the work, our service providers, and wanting to tour all sorts of programming from emergency shelter to day centers. I've walked with outreach workers. I have been to permanent supportive housing facilities, both old and new. And I'm also beginning a series of meetings. I'm about a month in with our government partners. And so really am just trying to get a landscape of who does what and who is connected to each other, who's not, is really important to have eyes open to. But I am coming into this role with 30 years of experience in the nonprofit and public sectors. I'm coming into this role with, after serving in multiple roles inside of a COC, including being the Continuum of Care Governing Board Chair. I've worked for mayors, Republican and Democratic. I have been in nonprofits working at the program, direct service level, as well as in leadership roles. So the work itself and sort of the levers that a community pulls when trying to combat an issue as critical and complex as homelessness, that is very familiar to me. I come in with a great deal of experience and don't feel like the work itself is new. But what is new is this community. Even though it's home, it's a place I have not been in my professional career. And so I have not yet developed that network of relationships that will help me engage in the work. I strongly believe, and has been true through my experience, that this work only happens in relationship. It is only by people coming together, being connected, having trusted relationships and a commitment to one another that the work moves forward. And so that's why, in these early days, I'm really focused on and deeply committed to connecting with as many people as possible throughout the region. I'll tell you, I'm getting an earful. It's been an interesting path. Again, I feel like I undertook this 90-day introductory period, really thinking about how we one-on-one or me with groups could sort of get to know each other. I didn't really anticipate fully or appreciate fully that I would also be sort of getting a deep assessment of MDHI, its work throughout the years, and its current role. And so it's been great. It's been incredibly helpful to have people across the metro region first be so welcoming. I have to say, this is a really amazing community of people who have all welcomed me, treated me with kindness. I can tell are eager for partnership. So I've really appreciated the level of hospitality that I've been welcomed into. But People are also being very honest about where MDHI has been successful, where it's failed. People are being honest that they are not currently connected to MDHI or don't know how to do that. And so I've really appreciated that there's been a level of candid conversations. I know that that's not always easy. It takes a level of bravery to sort of unload, what might be seen as a problem to a new director. But this community is doing that, and I believe they're doing that because the relationship between various different individuals and communities and MDHI is one that's important and that people value. So I thought I would share just a few themes of what's coming up, and then also talk about some immediate things here in March and April that I'm facilitating as a way to respond. I'm so sorry, Tara. I didn't look at the agenda. I didn't. I want to make sure I have the time, or have I already gone over?
We put you down for 15 to 20 minutes, so you've got a
Oh,
little more
great,
time.
great.
We have a
That's
little
plenty of
wiggle room,
time.
you know.
That's great. Plenty of time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am. Some of this will be repetitive and things that I mentioned in my opening statements, but folks are conveying that they don't know how to plug in. They don't know how to participate in MDHI. They're unclear as to what sort of spaces MDHI convenes, what committees might make sense for them to participate in. So there's just a theme of folks really not understanding the structure and therefore not really knowing how to participate in COC efforts. I'm hearing that the board of directors at MDHI seems somewhat isolated, or at least not visible. And so people are asking, who's on the board, who they represent, what the sort of back and forth with the board looks like. So a lot of questions just about the leadership structure at the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative that I think are important for me to hear. I'm hearing a lot about coordinated entry, and that does not surprise me. Continuums of care across the country continue to work through coordinated entry and their coordinated efforts to get people into housing. And so that didn't surprise me that coordinated entry was coming up, but I'll admit it comes up a lot. And there's a variety of reasons for that. Ultimately, people are really committed to crafting paths to housing, and coordinated entry is an important tool, especially for the most vulnerable in our community, to access the level of housing with services that they need. So an important tool for our community, but one that people still don't fully understand or appreciate. I'm hearing about a need for more funding. So I mentioned MDHI helps to pull in about $30 to $35 million every year from HUD, but that's not nearly enough to meet the need. There are best practices that providers and communities across the region would love to implement, but we have not historically been successful in bringing new resources into the region to help support innovation or new programming or an increase in programming. And so there's a lot of conversation, a lot of ideas that people have about what kind of funding could be accessed, from how to increase our continuum of care score at the federal level so that more money from HUD flows through. People are talking to me about creating a more localized but regional fund source that is dedicated to addressing homelessness across the region. And then there are some communities that are considering, some have even been successful in creating local fund sources for homelessness and housing. So there's a lot of discussion just about the need for funding and the reality that the region is under-resourced when it comes to addressing homelessness across the 7-county region. People are sharing with me that they have an expectation that MDHI really exercise its leadership. They need MDHI to validate what's working, promote communications, and really be a central point for best practices. So there's seems to be a gap when it comes to a single place where people can turn when they're thinking through ideas, especially government partners as councils and mayors are really thinking through a variety of actions they may take to address homelessness in their community. And there is a real deep desire for MDHI to be that place where folks can turn for leadership and some fidelity of practice about what's working locally as well as nationally. And then the last thing, we collect a lot of data. The Homeless Management Information System is a centralized place where all data from all providers who are engaging with folks who are experiencing homelessness sends their information in, and people want to see us use that data more. They want us to share that data back. So the idea of creating a number of public-facing dashboards that really give people insight into what the homeless service system looks like, what are some of the challenges they're facing, but more importantly, what does it really look like? And at the very local level, what does it look like for people that are experiencing homelessness and using the system? And there seems to be, or what's being expressed to me is that there's a current gap in people having a level of visibility to the data we collect. So those are just some of the high-level themes that I'm hearing from the community. Some of those may resonate with some of you. You may be thinking of others, which I'm happy to hear from you if you want to express those today or at another point. But I wanted to share, just some of those high-level themes of what I'm hearing out in the community. What I'm working on currently is I honestly, within the my second or third week here, I realized that there was a bit of a structural problem. I don't know, problem may be a little harsh, but I felt like we at MDHI could be structured in a way that was more inclusive, that that offered clarity of role, and also clarified for the community MDHI's authority. So I have been talking with the board of directors about what a sort of restructure could look like. And the board just last month agreed that they would create a work group to think through how MDHI is currently structured, sort of what are the gaps in that current structure. And they are also going to be reviewing continuum of care structures from across the country to see if there's a structure that might work better here in Metro Denver. I'll share with you that I think we need a structure that at a minimum has two groups of leaders. One, a board of directors who oversees the nonprofit, so manages MDHI, make sure we're fiscally healthy, hires and fires the executive director, make sure we have the operational capacity we need to conduct the work, those kind of activities that a nonprofit board would typically manage. And then separately, I think we need a continuum of care board, a COC board, which is made up of representation from each of the subregions, from our provider community, from folks in the criminal justice system, the education system, commerce, sort of these variety of different aspects of community that all engage with and are impacted by the issue of homelessness. We need sort of to set a bigger table there so that leaders, people of influence can come together and make decisions, make strategic decisions about what the COC should be doing. So right now in my mind, I'm thinking that there's probably a splitting of the current board and having two, we'll call them boards at this point, that each have their specific roles in making sure our continuum is healthy and operating. So the board's going to be going through that process, and they're really committed to not reinventing the wheel. There are continuums of care that are doing incredible work and are structured well across the country, and I'm hopeful that they can sort of take pieces of what's working in other places and cobble them together in a way that will work here in Metro Denver. So look for more information to come out about that. I'll say as far as timeline, it's the board is and this work group of the board with myself and some leadership internally at MDHI is going to be thinking through this here in March and April. There will be a process of sort of deep socialization over what they come up with in May and June. And then I anticipate in July, August, and September, there will be a much deeper and more specific ask of community partners like yourselves about how you would be represented and plug in and play a role in whatever this new structure is. So there will be a lot more coming on this board restructure, but wanted to highlight that it's happening for you today. We're also April 3rd and 4th, staff are convening in person for a 2-day retreat to begin a process of strategic planning. This would be a first strategic planning session. We have outside facilitation to help guide us, and it will really be a time for us to generate some ideas of kind of what kind of activities we can do operationally that'll help us move the needle this year, next year, and in 2027. Again, this will be something that I'll want to take out and socialize and get more ideas about, and so look for more to come in May and June from a strategic standpoint. But wanted to share that that's happening at the beginning of next month. We are hosting a continuum of care convening on April 24th. A formal invitation will be coming out to the community on Monday, but this is a sort of conference style convening that MDHI is hosting at the end of April at the Boulder Jewish Community Center. Our target audience here is folks who are really conducting the work. So these are outreach workers, shelter workers, case managers, housing navigators, those kind of folks. And I know that many of, especially from an outreach perspective and a housing navigation perspective, many of those folks are embedded in government. So I want to make sure each of you receive this formal invitation and really get the right people to this convening. It'll be all day. There's going to be a series of trainings that are made available, as well as some talks and resources from local partners. So really excited about this convening. We anticipate about 300 people participating in person and hundreds more participating virtually, and really excited to get this going here in 2025 and have this as an annual part of our practice. I mentioned the State of Homelessness report that'll come out on April 24th in alignment with the COC convening, and really look forward to an opportunity to come back to this group and present that body of work. On the data side, we're also going to be releasing the point in time count data or the homeless census data, and the date for the summit is April 24th. It'll be from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. The state, typically we conduct the point in time count in January. We pull all that data together and we send it off to HUD at end of April, beginning of May. They take a few months to validate that data, send it back to us, and then we publish the results of the point in time count or homeless census, typically in the middle to late summer. We're changing that schedule this year. We are going to release to the community the point in time data at the same time that we send it to HUD. Given sort of some uncertainty at the federal level, we're not sure sort of when or even if the point in time data will be validated. And so we want to make sure that we're in communication with the community following the point in time count in January in a timely manner. So we'll have to be really careful about that communication and really be clear with the community that the point in time data that we're sharing is not yet validated by HUD, but we thought it was important to release the point in time data as early as possible. And so you can expect to see that in late April, early May. And then the last thing I'll share is that all of this incoming my way, a lot of ideas and thinking that's happened internally at MDHI really does give question to the way that we're organized as staff. And so there will be some organizational restructures happening. Some are already underway. I know many of you have been engaged with and connected to Sophia. She's leading sort of a larger group that includes the coordinated entry team. And so we're just making some other minor tweaks inside of the organization so that we can be the best partner possible for you and everyone else across the region. So I hope I didn't go over my time. I really want to, hear what questions you have at this moment, if any. But again, I'll just restate my deep appreciation for the work that you do, and I'm really excited to be connected to it.
Thank you, Jason. And I'll express on behalf of the group our deep appreciation of MDHI. Your predecessors have been really instrumental in helping form this group and also, steer our ship and make sure we're all heading in the same direction and making progress. So, and of course, we want to be of support to you in any way we can. If those opportunities for funding come up that we might partner on, we're always glad to be a partner for you on that as well.
Thank you, Tara.
So I'll open it up for some questions, and it looks like we've got Gretchen Rodman with her hand up.
Yes, hi everybody.
Hi.
Thank you, Jason, for the work you're doing. When you release the report in April, will you send that out like as a PDF or as a memo so that we can see that before you come and present it?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's a
Fantastic.
we're nearly completed. We're nearly at the point of completion of the dashboard. And so over the next sort of 20-30 days, we're going to be focused on packaging that dashboard up, making sure there's sort of, communication strategy that's built, and we'll push send on that document, on that dashboard, so that all of you can access it in alignment with the COC convening on April 24th. So you can anticipate it hitting your inboxes that week. So we're trying to get it out before the convening on the 24th, but it may happen in alignment with that meeting on April 24th. But absolutely, you'll see it. You'll have an opportunity to click around in the dashboard. I want to make sure you've reviewed it so that we can have a good, robust conversation about what the findings are and what you're seeing in the dashboard. So absolutely, you'll see that in April. And if I could come back here in May and present, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I'll make sure we get you on our May agenda.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Anyone else have questions or thoughts for Jason? He's looking for input too, it sounds like. So if you have anything. Okay, so we've got a question in the chat from Emily. So something to consider. I guess she wants you to take a look at her chat and see what you might want to think about that. but we will keep going unless other people have questions, because we've got a few more things on our agenda. And Jason, you're welcome to continue to attend this meeting if you have time
Thank
for it in
you.
your schedule. We meet once a month for an hour, so it's not a huge
Yeah.
commitment, but
Yeah, no, they're on my calendar. I plan on being
Mhm.
here.
Okay.
Part of that restructure internally was us just, especially, I just think the MDHI team has done such a great job over the last year, operating without a director. They had some interim leadership, but it really took everyone stepping up and participating in a number of spaces to make sure that they were staying connected with partners. And so we've done a little bit of that reorganization, and this is a group that I plan on participating
That's great.
from now on. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Well, I don't see anyone else with their hands up, so I'm gonna move along then. And
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the
thank
time.
you.
Thanks for
Thank
putting
you
me
so
on the
much.
agenda. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, so we have our second item today. We invited some of the local representatives of schools who work in the McKinney-Vento program to come and chat with us. And I'm hoping they're willing to, take up a little time here to introduce themselves, talk about what they do in their school districts, and then see if we can have a conversation about, what they see in their roles and how we all might work together. So I don't know if anyone wants to go first. I've got Heather listed first on my agenda, but if somebody else wants to jump in first, please feel free. See Heather on there.
We are on here.
Okay.
Clarice, do you want to go first?
Sure, I will. I didn't see if Heather was on here, but I will go first. So my name is Clarice Fortunato. I work at Inglewood Schools. I am the District Family School Community Liaison, as well as the McKinney-Vento Liaison. I co-share that position with Marie LeBlanc currently. Go ahead, Leslie.
So I have a similar position to Clarice, and I'm a McKinney-Vento liaison as well as a community liaison in our district, and we have 4 people that do this position in our district.
Hi there, I'm Heather Beltran, and I'm from Littleton Public Schools, and I am the McKinney-Vento liaison, and I also am the school engagement specialist. This is my first year in the McKinney-Vento liaison role, so I am learning a lot.
And so we are not exactly sure. We can probably give you some stats on what our districts look like as far as McKinney-Vento numbers, kind of the state of what it looks like in our schools. And so we all also participate in Change the Trend meetings. So right after this, most of us will probably plug into that as well. That's been a lifeline for all of us as far as networking and gathering some resources for our families in our area. But since I'm talking, I'll just start. So at Inglewood Schools, we're the small district of the group. We only have about 2,400 total students in our district. Of that number, between 175 and 185 are considered MKV. So MKV, so McKinney-Vento. So McKinney-Vento looks a little bit different than the typical HUD definition. So McKinney-Vento in schools means that there's not adequate housing, or that they're doubled up due to economic reasons. So in addition to families living in shelters, in their cars, campers, and the motels, hotels around, they could also be doubled up, or what we call couch surfing, with relatives because of economic reasons. And I would say, I know for my district for sure, and I would almost bet both the other Heather and Leslie's districts, the majority of our families that we do classify as McKinney-Vento are the doubled up folks in our district. As we know, rents here in our areas, all 3 of our areas, are very, very, very expensive. Our numbers, I'm sure, in all 3 of our districts are going up for McKinney-Vento students, just because of the fact that that rent piece is a huge factor. I will let someone else talk about their numbers as well. So again, Inglewood Schools, about 7.5% of our students are considered McKinney-Vento. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. Yeah, I can go next. I just pulled up our current numbers. We're at 1,173 in our district. Like Clarice said, a lot of them are the doubled up with, like, even a family yesterday. There's 10 people in a 1-bedroom apartment. So just really seeing a lot of that. We have a lot in our hotel motels. So kind of think of Arapahoe and I-25, kind of back by the View House, and down to the Motel 6. We could walk from hotel to hotel, and we'd have families and multiple families in those hotels. I currently have a family that's been in a hotel in Inglewood for close to 3 years. And while the parents both work, it's just hard to get enough money in order to move into a place of their own. So that's been truly difficult. But like Clarice said, like, definitely numbers going up. So I will pass it on to Heather.
All right, I think my mic is on, right? Everybody can hear me?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you.
So I just looked at our numbers, and we have about 131 families that we know of that are McKinney-Vento. Again, this is my first year, but I want to say that when I came on board in August, I think we had only identified around 30 kids. So I'm job sharing this year with another coworker who's been in the district for many years. She does all the financial piece. She sets up transportation for me. She will work with the motels when we need to set up a family there, and I do all of the family outreach. And I can say, I mean, it's very overwhelming sometimes. There might be days where I get 5 or 6 calls from people who are letting me know that they had just found out about, what McKinney-Vento is, and they wanted to let me know that they are sleeping in their car or they are doubled up or whatnot. So, but I feel like the majority of my work lately has been trying to set up transportation for families, and they often, when they are couch surfing, they move a lot. They're just bouncing from house to house, and because we set up hop, skip, drive for these families, it's a lot of getting the new information so we can make sure they get transportation to school. I don't even know what to say. Like I said, I'm not sure what. I don't even remember the original question. And like I said, it can be very overwhelming. But I love the job so far, but it's a lot of work.
And I know we're kind of out of the blue for you all, and I hope you don't feel like you're put on the spot. But we really just wanted this organization started out by building a couple of action plans and doing studies. So we did 2 studies, one regarding single adult homelessness in our communities and one involving family homelessness in the communities. And at the time we did that survey, people in your roles were included in that family homelessness study. But it's been several years. We developed an action plan, and we focused first on single adult homelessness. That's really what this group's been working on. And we're getting to a point where we want to continue with the action steps we'd identified to try to help with family homelessness. And so that you're back as part of that. We're trying to bring you kind of back to this group and understand what all you're doing. Try to, maybe introduce what we're working on some with you, and just make sure that we have that connection open. Sean, go ahead.
Mayor, I was just going to add to what you said, and first to say thank you for the incredibly challenging and important work that you do with students in Tri-Cities, but also just how can we help you? If in a perfect world, we as community leaders, you as community leaders, but how could the Tri-Cities group help the McKinney-Vento liaisons?
I can kind of talk a little bit about us here in Inglewood. So just so you know what our role is as McKinney-Vento liaisons, our role is to provide, so McKinney-Vento is a federal mandate that allows us to provide equal opportunities for students that are experiencing homelessness as our other students. So the biggest one, and Heather kind of hit the nail on the head for us as well here in Inglewood, is transportation. Possibly working with our districts. Leslie and I both have grants currently right now called the McKinney-Vento grant through, it's a federal grant siphoned through the Colorado Department of Education. This is the last year of the grant. And so we do have some funds set aside for that. But as you can imagine, as we're transporting these kids, because our kids can live, I'm here in Inglewood, they could live as far as Fort Morgan. And if our school is their point of origin and they choose to stay here, we have to transport these kids to the school. So we have kids, even though we're saying we're Inglewood schools or Cherry Creek schools or Littleton schools, we're transporting these kids all across the regional area. And so for us, obviously the big challenge is the funding piece and the cost of what we have to do to support our students, because it's mandated. We have to, like, this is something we have to provide. And then obviously the huge piece you'll probably hear all of us talk about is just that advocating for affordable housing. Again, these are working families. These are families that are holding down jobs. Just yesterday, we had a family in our school come in. They've been, just to Leslie's point, living in motels, hotels for years now, finally got approved for their Section 8 voucher and are moving into apartments. But that doesn't always happen. And so even if they have these vouchers, sometimes they can't find, there's not enough housing and not enough available housing. So I just want you to we're painting the picture of our families. A lot of them are working, hardworking citizens, kids in school. We also, obviously, all three of us deal with a lot of the new arrival families, new to the country families that have moved into our district. And so that's another piece that we're trying to navigate and try to get resources for those families as well. Another big piece that I can ask, and I'll pass it on because I'm talking a lot, is that when you all do have information, please, and I ask this a lot and change the term, please make sure it's translated into Spanish. So many of our folks that I work with specifically here in our resource center are Spanish speaking families. And so while a lot of resources have been coming out of Arapahoe County and our cities, we just want to make sure that the information we're giving to them is accessible. And so for us, language is a really big barrier. So we would love for your support when you're thinking about putting out stuff, making sure that it's translated.
Right.
There's my spiel. Go ahead, lady.
I will definitely echo what she is saying. The housing piece is super frustrating. So especially with, like, if you think of how large Arapahoe County is as the lack of family shelter space. So anytime we're giving out resources, it's really hard because they're hitting, just dead ends and wait lists and just not enough shelter space and wraparound services.
I see Commissioner Warren Gully has her hand up, so I want to let her jump in and ask a question or a comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Carrie Warren Gully, I'm one of the Arapahoe County Commissioners. Thank you for everything you're doing. As Sean said, this is really hard work. And I know Arapahoe County wants to support you and help in any way we can. So please keep us posted on ways that we can do that. I guess my question is really oriented around, how do you know about these families? I mean, I hear you saying they come to you, but I'm wondering, is there any other way in which you try to find out, especially because I hear that, from my understanding, because we have, free lunches for all, a lot of families aren't filling out, free and reduced lunch forms, which might be a first indicating factor for us that we should reach out and say, tell us about your circumstances and how can we support you. So how are you finding these families? Is it mostly them coming to you? And does that, is there any other way we can support people coming to you?
I can give Leslie and Clarice a second to take a little break. Like I said, I think our numbers jumped from about 30 to 130, like I said, just in these last few months. And what I think is that because there's two of us this year doing this job, we are able, we're able to kind of get the word out more to, I guess you could say, counselors at schools and administrators at schools. there's still a lot of people in our schools that have no idea what McKinney-Vento is, you know, teachers or whatnot who have been around for 20 years. They've never heard of McKinney-Vento. I don't believe that we had posters and things up in all of our schools last year either. And when Debbie and I came into this role, we were informed that, you know, that is a requirement. We need to have posters in all of our school buildings. We've even taken them to like Bemis Library, laundry mats, you know, things like that. So that has my information on there. So that's one way I think that people are seeing it. But like I said, we kind of blasted it out there that, hey, I'm the new McKinney-Vento person. We blasted that out there at the beginning of the year. So everybody would, I guess, know that I'm the new person, but also remind people that McKinney-Vento is a thing and it's wonderful for kids who are experiencing this. Oh, you've noticed those posters, Julie? That's good. Yeah, and to tell you the truth, I mean, like I said, they're coming in so fast. I almost don't want to continue to promote what we're doing because even though it's wonderful, we need like 5 or 6 of us. So that's how and so I hear mostly from counselors who are speaking with kids in their offices saying, hey, I'm sleeping, we're staying with my friend, we're staying with my parents' friends. Then the counselors know, oh, okay, I need to get a hold of Heather because she could probably provide some services.
I think the really interesting thing to note, I was really glad you brought up the free and reduced lunch form that's not being filled out. The problem with families not filling out the form is it's cutting our Title I budgets. So then, so funding, of course, you're hearing it everywhere, but funding is a huge concern because if the Title I is tied to that free and reduced lunch number, but they're not filling out the form, it's really we're coming in at a disadvantage on that. So, and then just not knowing, like federal wise, what's being cut and what kind of funding we may or may not get, that's a huge concern as well.
Yeah, and then one other thing to point out too, I think a lot of us get notification. It's within our registration systems. All of the district registration systems do have a question. So that's the self-identification piece. And so as they're filling out registrations, they can self-identify. But just like Heather said, we really do rely on like our counselors, teachers, front office staff, bus drivers that are doing direct services with our kids to make those connections and relationships to refer to us specifically. In Inglewood, we have a family resource center. I know in Littleton, they have the East Community Center. So we see families a lot of times that may not be under that McKinney-Vento umbrella just yet. But as we learn their stories, as they're visiting us, there's a lot of times that we're able to qualify them based on what they're telling us. But as Leslie pointed out, that piece, exactly what you're talking about, the free and reduced lunch form, as it's changed, we just got our numbers released for this year for free and reduced numbers, and they're definitely down, and it is tied to funding. And so it does make us definitely a little bit nervous because we know we'll be cut in that situation. But on the flip side, we know our numbers are up. So we know the families and the need is there, but the forms that are required, or not required, but optional for families to fill out, and the new formula that they are using is not identifying all our families. So it makes us, as in our roles, a little bit nervous knowing that funding is going to be cut for a lot of these programs and kids that we serve.
Jason, go ahead.
Just to sort of probably piggyback on what Clarice just said, at the federal level, the Department of Education is under attack, and McKinney-Vento funds are part of that major funding disruption. And so there is, strong advocacy happening, and encourage, the question was, how can we help? Encourage, anyone who's able and willing to contact your members of Congress. They are currently looking at a potential government shutdown as early as this Saturday, which would include a freeze of McKinney-Vento funding. And so it's critical issue, whether it's a temporary freeze or a complete gutting of the Department of Education that would impact families locally. So this is just something I wanted to elevate. It's a very active conversation at the federal level, and you know, if there are the kind of radical changes that appear likely, we at the local level are really going to have to hustle to figure out how to support these families and their kids.
Thanks, Chelsea.
One last thing just to kind of add on to that is that Heather, Leslie, myself, and then my coworker Marie got to participate in some legislative meetings recently. We met with Congressman Crow's office as a group and just voiced our concerns, voiced the impact stories of what it means if funding gets cut, what we do, and how we support our families. I was fortunate enough to go to Washington a week and a half ago and meet with our senators here, and then Diana DeGette as well, to voice the same exact concerns. I will say the tricky part of that, it was good and bad, because we have legislators that believe in the work we do and they're supportive, but every single one of them asked, like, have you talked to the opposing side? Have you talked to the opposing side? And so while we live in a state, and in our area specifically around folks that support the work we do, it's hard when, obviously, as you all know, people making the decisions aren't necessarily the same people that are the voice of Colorado. So
yeah, it's unfortunate. Boy, we are pushing up against time. I'm sorry to say that, because I would love to keep chatting with you all. If I can ask one more question of the three of you. So it sounds like you're involved with Change the Trend, which is fantastic, because I know that's an amazing group for connecting with resources in our communities. But I just was curious, which types of resources and which partners do you work with the most to help out the families you work with?
Any and everybody. We actually have like a list that we have, like an ongoing list of supports and services for our families, the food pantries, the you know, clothing, everything, anything we can get our hands on.
yeah,
Totally valid answer.
The one thing that has been super helpful is obviously the county support. The county did put together some resource brochures that I know I use probably on the daily. I have set out right in here that, again, it has all those lists, all those lists of community supports, and it's in Spanish too, woohoo. But it's a list of supports that I can, like, where, just like Leslie said, the food banks, you know, where can I wash my clothes, where can I get food on a day to, like a hot meal. So that has been, the county's been great, but exactly, any and all, exactly what Leslie said. And I'm sure, Heather, you probably have some resources too that you pull.
Yes, I also have that Arapahoe County Homeless Resource Guide. But I just do want to give a shout out to, I think it's called Innovative Housing Concepts. They are the one and only success story that I've had. They just put a dad and his son up in they got him a home an apartment. They paid deposit and first 3 months worth of rent, which is huge. So, because like we were talking about, these families that live in motels forever, they're paying so much money to live there, but they just can't save to get another place. So a shout out to Innovative Housing Concepts, but they're the only ones that I've had any luck with so far.
Awesome. Well, Lindsay's on here, so she heard that shout out. All right, we're going to see if we can cram in a real quick update from Lizzie Loomis about what's been going on with our own action plan. If you don't mind, Lizzie. I know we have just a minute.
No, you're perfectly fine. It was actually the Tri-Cities PHS Feasibility Assessment RFP. It will be released next Tuesday, March 18th. There is a virtual pre-solicitation meeting on March 26th at 11 a.m. And we are hoping to collect all vendor information by April 15th, 2025 by 2 p.m. So that's the only quick update I have. Thank you.
Great. I'm glad to hear that's still moving forward. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody.
Mayor,
I'm
sorry,
go ahead.
Mayor.
Yeah,
Do you
no,
mind if I
please.
just brag on Lizzie? She is the
No,
one that
please.
put that resource guide together.
Yeah, I
So,
want to say we've all partnered, we've tried to feed some resources from Tri-Cities into that guide, and Lizzie's been in all these meetings, so I'm proud we had a little part on our team here, and I appreciate Arapahoe County putting all that together. So thank you. Sounds like it's really working. All right. All of you McKinney-Vento representatives, again, thank you so much for everything you do, and thank you for taking some time to meet with us today. And you are welcome to, come back to this meeting if you would like to stay involved and hear what we're doing in the Tri-Cities area. We know you're busy people, so please, it's fine if you don't. But we're glad to make the connection, and thank you so much for talking with us today. And thank you, Jason, for coming and giving us an overview of your first 60 days. So we'll see you all next month. It's been great. Take care.
Bye.